Have you ever realized that you have waited for something good for so long that you no longer remember what it feels like to expect something good? You still wake up every morning. You go to work. You answer the messages that need answering. You take care of your family. You fulfill your responsibilities. You keep moving as though everything is fine. But somewhere deep inside, you have stopped making plans for the future. It was not as if one day you stood up and announced, "I no longer believe in good things." It happened much more quietly. You were disappointed once. Then again, you trusted someone and got hurt. You placed your hope in an opportunity and watched the door close. You waited for an answer and received silence instead. You believed the plan would become reality, but life took you in a completely different direction. And after enough experiences like that, you began protecting yourself with one simple rule. Don't hope too much, and you won't have to be disappointed too much. It sounds wise. It even sounds mature, because if you do not expect much, you will hurt less. If you do not become too excited, you will not be devastated when something disappears. If you do not give your trust completely, you can feel as though you are still in control. But there is a problem. The armor you created to protect your heart from pain can sometimes prevent good things from entering your life. You may have lived in a state of constant defense for so long that you no longer recognize it. Good news arrives, and your first thought is, "I wonder what will go wrong next." Someone treats you kindly, and you ask yourself, "Are they really sincere, or do they want something from me?" A new opportunity appears, and instead of feeling excited, you start calculating what you might lose if it fails. A peaceful day passes, and instead of enjoying it, you quietly wait for something to interrupt that peace. That is when the past begins charging rent on your future. Things that happened months or years ago continue influencing days that have not even happened yet. And this is where we need to make an important distinction. Learning from a wound is not the same as living inside that wound. You have every right to remember what happened. You have the right to be more careful. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to observe more carefully before giving someone your trust. But you do not have to turn what happened in the past into a prediction for everything that will happen next. Someone who hurt you does not mean the next person will hurt you too. An opportunity that failed does not mean every opportunity will fail. A relationship that caused you pain does not mean every relationship will cause you pain. And a difficult season does not mean your entire life will remain difficult. This is where mature hope begins. Mature hope does not mean telling yourself that tomorrow will definitely be perfect. It does not mean closing your eyes to reality. It does not mean trusting everyone. And it does not mean convincing yourself that one specific thing is guaranteed to happen. Mature hope simply means this. You refuse to let your present circumstances pronounce a verdict on your entire future. You may not know what is coming. You may not know what shape the next opportunity will take. You may not know who will enter your life. You may not even know who you will become a few years from now, but you can leave a small space open in your heart, a space large enough to say, maybe there are still good things waiting for me. That is enough. You do not have to feel excited immediately. You do not have to announce that everything is okay. You simply have to stop closing the door completely, because sometimes good things do not arrive in the form you once imagined. They may begin very quietly. A wiser decision. A morning when you wake up and realize that the pain is not as strong as it used to be. A friend who stays when everyone else has left. A job that helps you rediscover a sense of purpose. A conversation that helps you understand yourself more deeply. An opportunity you never expected. Or simply the ability to live your own life again instead of merely trying to survive each day. And when you begin seeing life this way, an important question appears. If something truly good entered your life today, would you be peaceful enough to receive it? Because sometimes the question is no longer, when will something good happen? The deeper question is, what needs to heal inside me so that when something good arrives, I do not push away myself? Perhaps the scariest thing is not that we have been hurt in the past, but that we begin using those wounds to define how we view others, how we view love, and how we view ourselves. When we become accustomed to anxiety, we sometimes fail to realize that we are searching for that exact same feeling in new relationships. We assume that the more nervous, anxious, or fearful we are of losing someone, the deeper our love must be. But is that really true? There is something strange about human beings. We often search for what feels familiar, even when what feels familiar has hurt us before. If you have lived through unstable relationships, you may have become accustomed to waiting for a message, waiting for an explanation, waiting for someone to return, waiting for someone who is close today, but disappears tomorrow, waiting for an answer you do not know when you will receive. And that waiting creates a very powerful kind of emotion. You think about them constantly. You analyze every sentence. You notice every small change. A message makes you happy. Silence makes you anxious. Their return brings relief. And eventually, you may begin calling all those feelings deep love. But sometimes what you call depth is actually anxiety. What you call chemistry may actually be uncertainty. What you call longing may be an old wound searching for reassurance. You have become so accustomed to the storm that when a peaceful day arrives, you do not know what to do with it. Someone speaks to you gently. They do not make you guess. They do not disappear to make you chase them. They do not create emotional games. They do not make you prove your worth. And you think something is missing. Why? Because the past may have taught your heart the wrong lesson. If I am not afraid of losing them, maybe I do not love them enough. But healthy love does not have to make you afraid. Healthy love can be quiet. It does not have to make your heart race because of insecurity. It can make you feel seen, heard, respected, safe enough to be yourself. And that peace can sometimes feel unfamiliar to someone who's been hurt. In the story of Ruth and Naomi, we can see a similar principle. Good things do not always arrive looking spectacular. Naomi returned to Bethlehem after experiencing tremendous loss. In her eyes, life had taken almost everything from her. She did not return with a perfect plan. She did not know what the future would look like. She only knew that she had lost so much. Yet at the very moment she felt empty, the harvest was beginning. That is a beautiful picture. Naomi's pain was real, but it was not the complete story of her future. That may also be your story. You may be in a season where everything you see from your current position makes you feel as though you miss your best opportunity. You see other people getting married, other people starting new careers, other people buying homes, other people finding love, other people seemingly entering a new chapter, and you begin telling yourself, maybe my time has passed. But be careful. You are looking at someone else's moment, not their entire story. You do not know how many times they cried. You do not know how many times they failed. You do not know how many times they doubted themselves. You only see the visible part of their life and use it to judge the entirety of yours. That is an unfair comparison. And there is something else that can hold you back. Guilt. Maybe you made the wrong choice. Maybe you stayed too long. Maybe you missed an opportunity. Maybe you said something you still regret. But a mistake is not a life sentence. You can take responsibility. You can make amends. You can apologize. You can learn. But you do not have to turn your past into a room where you imprison yourself forever. Self-correction is different from self-condemnation. Growth is different from self-punishment. And healing does not mean forgetting everything that happened. Healing means remembering without allowing the memory to control every new decision. This is especially important in relationships. When someone new enters your life, do not make them pay a debt created by someone from your past. Do not force them to prove they are different before allowing them the chance to be themselves. But that does not mean ignoring warning signs. You still need to observe. Are they consistent? Do they respect you? Do they take responsibility for their actions? Can they communicate when there is a problem? Do they respect your boundaries? Over time, do they make you feel more peaceful or increasingly anxious? That is the difference between hope and blindness. Hope keeps its eyes open. Blindness closes them. Hope says, maybe this is good. Let time show me. Blindness says, I want this to be good, so I will ignore everything. You do not have to choose between loving someone and protecting yourself. You can do both. You can open your heart while maintaining boundaries. You can trust while continuing to observe. You can forgive without accepting the same kind of pain repeatedly. You can love someone without losing yourself. And that is one of the clearest signs of mature love. The right person does not require you to become smaller so they can feel secure. They do not demand that you abandon your goals. They do not ask you to stop growing. They do not require you to sacrifice your entire identity to prove your love. Two mature people do not need one person to save the other. They stand on their own and choose to walk beside each other. And if someone is truly right for you, you will not have to drag them forward. There will be movement from both sides. You will not constantly have to ask, do you still want me? Do I matter to you? When are you finally going to be clear? Because consistent actions will gradually answer those questions. That is also why you should not rush to give a relationship a label just because you notice a few signs. If there is someone in your mind while you are hearing these words, do not immediately run toward them, but do not run away from them simply because of an old fear either. Observe. Let time speak. Look for peace. Look for consistency. Look for growth in both of you. Sometimes the biggest surprise is not that an entirely new person appears. Sometimes it is that someone you already knew becomes a different version of themselves, while you become a different version of yourself too. And then the question is no longer, is this person my destiny? The more mature question is this relationship truly healthy? Is there respect, consistency, and growth? Does it help both of us become better versions of ourselves? If the answer is yes, let develop step by step. If the answer is no, clarity is not a loss. Because what truly belongs in your life will never require you to lose yourself in order to keep it. But no matter how beautiful love is or how right a person may seem, there's still one thing we must learn: not to turn our lives into a waiting room. Because sometimes we spend so much time waiting for a person, an answer, or a better future that we forget our lives are happening right now, in this very moment. Maybe you are waiting for something: a phone call, an answer, an opportunity, a person, a new job, a change, a day when you believe everything will finally make sense. And while you wait, you may unknowingly put your life on pause. You think, when this happens, I will be happy. When that person comes back, I will start again. When my career becomes stable, I will live. When I have enough money, I will travel. When everything becomes clear, then I will allow myself to be at peace. But there is one problem. Life is still happening while you wait. Today is not a draft for tomorrow. Today is part of your life. You do not need to know the entire road before taking the next step. Ruth did not know the entire story when she entered the field. Naomi did not know where the harvest would lead. They simply responded to what was in front of them. That may be the lesson for you. Do not try to solve your entire future in one day. Ask, what can I do today? Maybe today you need to rest. Maybe you need to have a conversation you have been avoiding. Maybe you need to establish a boundary. Maybe you need to return to work you once loved. Maybe you need to learn something new. Maybe you need to call someone you love. Maybe you simply need to step outside, breathe, and remember that there is still more to life than the one problem occupying your mind. You do not need an answer today to have permission to live today. You do not need to know whether someone will stay in order to enjoy tonight. You do not need to know exactly what your financial future will look like before doing the best you can today. You do not need certainty that something will succeed before you are allowed to begin, because absolute certainty rarely exists. There's a point where preparation is useful, but there's also a point where preparation becomes a demand for control. You begin wanting to know every outcome. You want to know what other people think. You want to know exactly how every decision will end. You want to know whether you will fail before you even begin. But if you demand absolute guarantees before every step, you will never move. Maturity is not controlling everything. Maturity is knowing what you can control and accepting what you cannot. You can control how you respond. You can control your boundaries. You can control your honesty. You can control how you treat others. But you cannot completely control another person. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot force someone to choose you. You cannot force a door to open. And sometimes peace begins the moment you stop trying to control things that were never yours to control. Think about something you have been worrying about for months. How many times have you replayed it? How many scenarios have you imagined? How many situations have you prepared for that never happened? And in the end, how much of what you feared actually happened? Maybe very little. Yet during that process, you lived through hundreds of days inside the fear of events that never occurred. That is what we need to stop. Do not let an imagined future steal a real present. If there is a problem that needs to be solved, solve it. If there is a conversation that needs to happen, prepare for it and have it. If there is a genuine warning sign, face it. But if there is no evidence, do not let fear write a story and force you to live according to that story. This is especially important in relationships. If someone takes a little longer to respond, do not immediately conclude that they no longer care. Look at the whole pattern. If they need space, do not immediately assume everything is ending. Communicate. If they have a difficult day, do not immediately turn their mood into evidence that you are about to be abandoned. Ask before you conclude. Breathe before reacting. Ask before accusing. Observe before withdrawing. Wait before creating a silent conclusion. But remember, staying calm does not mean ignoring real warnings. If someone repeatedly lies to you, disrespects you, manipulates you, punishes you with silence, or intentionally hurts you, you do not need to call that complicated love. Discernment does not mean denying what you see. Discernment means seeing clearly without allowing fear to distort everything. And eventually, there will be a moment when you have to learn how to be vulnerable in a mature way. You may have to say, "This hurt me. I need clarity. I care about you. I am afraid. I need to know where we stand." Maybe you once believed that saying these things made you weak. But honesty does not take away your strength. You can open your heart without losing your dignity. You can love without abandoning your boundaries. You can forgive without returning to the same cycle. You can care about someone while still keeping your own life. That is mature love. Healthy love does not require you to disappear. It does not ask you to abandon your goals. It does not ask you to stop growing. It does not ask you to dim your light, so that someone else can feel secure. Two people can love each other while still having their own goals, their own work, their own friendships, their own space, their own lessons to learn. Love does not necessarily mean becoming one person. Sometimes mature love means two whole people choosing to walk beside each other. And if you still cannot see what you are hoping for today, that does not mean you have been left behind. Silence does not necessarily mean absence. A season with little visible movement does not mean that nothing is changing inside you. Maybe you are learning not to return to places that hurt you. Maybe you are learning to say no. Maybe you are learning to rest without feeling guilty. Maybe you are learning not to chase someone who does not choose you. Maybe you are learning how to enjoy an ordinary day. And all of that is progress. Do not define something good only as a major event. Sometimes something good is the strength to walk away from something that no longer belongs in your life. It is the wisdom not to return. It is a friend who stays. It is waking up one morning and realizing your heart feels lighter. It is being able to have a difficult conversation without being terrified of abandonment. It is beginning to believe that you deserve to be treated with kindness. That is a harvest too. It may not look like the harvest you once imagined, but it is still a harvest. So if today you are standing before a future you cannot clearly see, do not rush to conclude that the future is empty. Not seeing something does not mean nothing is there. Not having an answer does not mean the story has ended. You have experienced loss, but you have not lost your entire future. You have failed before, but you have not failed at everything you have not yet begun. You have been hurt, but you do not have to live forever as someone waiting for the next blow. Let the past be your teacher, not your prison. Carry the lessons, but do not carry the sentence. Keep your discernment, but do not lose your ability to hope. Open your heart, but do not ignore reality. Love, but do not lose yourself. And if today someone comes to mind, a person, an opportunity, or a new chapter you are unsure whether to enter, do not rush toward it. And do not rush away from it either. Observe. Let time confirm it. Look at actions. Look for consistency. Look for peace. Look at whether you can truly be yourself. Because what truly belongs in your life will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. And if something does not belong, clarity is not failure. It is freedom. So perhaps today you do not need a prediction about the future. You only need one small decision. Do not close the door anymore. You do not have to throw it wide open. Just leave it slightly open. Open enough for light to enter. Open enough for a new opportunity to be seen. Open enough for you to allow yourself to believe that your story is not over. Because the good things ahead do not necessarily have to look like the things you lost. They may be completely different. They may arrive more quietly. They may not create the chaos you once mistook for love. They may begin with an ordinary day, a small decision, a calm person, a simple opportunity, a peace you did not previously know how to receive. And when it appears, the most important question is not whether you recognize it immediately. The question is whether your heart is still open enough to see it. So lift your head. You've been through a lot. You may still have scars. You may still have unanswered questions. But do not mistake uncertainty for an ending. Do not mistake a difficult season for your entire life. Do not mistake what you lost for everything that is still possible. And above all, do not let what happened yesterday decide what you are allowed to hope for tomorrow. Your story is still unfolding. And perhaps the best thing ahead is not getting back what you lost. Perhaps it is moving forward with a heart that is wiser, calmer, stronger, and finally ready to receive the things you were once too wounded to recognize. You do not need to know the entire road. You only need enough courage to take the next step. And today, take one step. Maybe that step is letting go of what has been hurting you. Maybe it is choosing peace over uncertainty. Maybe it is allowing yourself to hope again. Whatever that step looks like for you, remember this: your story is not over. If these words spoke to something you have been carrying silently, stay with us. Subscribe to the channel for more stories, reflections, and reminders to help you keep moving forward when life feels uncertain. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you can choose how you walk into it. Take care of yourself. Keep your heart open. And never let yesterday decide what you are allowed to hope for tomorrow. See you in the next video.